So this is part 4 of my Is Investing Useless / Am I Wrong About Investing series. In parts 1 to 3, I reacted to various YouTubers' YouTube videos in which they talked about investing and their take on investing. Now, I may not have made it clear in the other videos, but whenever I started a video off, I started it off with a title such as Am I Wrong About Investing, for example. And what I mean by this is when I have spoken about my investor stat in the past, it's mainly been around the stock market as a whole, in terms of my actual returns and knowledge gained on the topic. It also somewhat encapsulates real estate, but it's primarily the stock market. Now, when you see YouTubers such as the others I've reacted to talk about investing, they have usually mentioned a business as an investment, not the stock market. Now, although the guys I have reacted to didn't really shit on the stock market much, Hamza and Alex kinda did, it's nowhere near as bad as what I've seen from others. So, here I am, talking about investing into stocks and swing trading, and here you have the big fish talking about investing into a business. So, who's right and who's wrong? Well, no one. It all depends, and there's levels to it all. Allow me to elaborate by using 4 examples I mentioned near the end of my reaction to Alex. These 4 investments are a career, a business, real estate, and the stock market. Let's start with using myself as an example for my career. My bachelor's degree cost me around $50,000. Usually my degree wouldn't be this expensive, but I had failed units, so I had to retake them. I took a loan from the university for my study abroad tour, and I did a few other tax units that were technically law, such as tax law and corporations law. Hence, they were more expensive than my accounting units. But even so, a base degree is probably around $50,000 now, if you're in Australia. I don't know what it'll be wherever you live. If you're in Denmark, I'm pretty sure it's free. Lucky you. But for the sake of this investing video, let's just say a degree costs you $50,000. My postgraduate certificate was $2,500. Usually it's around $10,000, but the government was giving incentives for people to study this stuff back during COVID, since we had lockdown and migration, so no skills migration coming in, so we had to train the people already inside the country to do this sort of stuff. So that's a total of $52,500 now. My CPA studies, which is my postgraduate studies, will cost around $7,000 all things considered, providing I pass every unit. Let's just round to $60,000 for simplicity's sake. The grad certificate is like not super relevant to my career. It was just an extra boost to the career/defense stat. Since we are progressively moving towards an AI world, this certificate puts me above the competition whenever employers mention the trajectory of the accounting profession. I am more equipped than they are. But let's include that payment as a part of this anyway. One last thing, my work pays for my CPA and the rest was paid off using HEX debt that I slowly repay at the end of each tax year. But if we delve into all that, it detracts from the point of this video. So let's just say a $60,000 investment for a bachelor's degree and higher education. With my bachelor's degree, I could probably earn around $85,000 near the top of my career. Just a rough guess. With my CPA, I could probably earn around $110,000 near the top of my career. Again, another estimate, but these aren't too far-fetched. Now, if you work for the large accounting firms, this salary explodes. You put up with shit for years and years on end, but when you get promoted to partner, your income can easily be $200,000 plus. But that isn't my goal. That's maxing out the career stat, but you'd have no time for anything else. If you want to use that as an example, by all means, but regular viewers of mine will know I'm all about leveling up many stats, having a holistic view and diversifying your grind. For this argument, we will use $110,000 per year as an example. Let's say instead, I didn't go to uni, I just worked at the supermarket like I do part-time. I get a promotion to department manager, I earn around $85,000 per year. Let's say in both alternate universes, this happens by the age of 26, my current age. In an alternate reality, I actually had my shit together much earlier, graduated university at 21 instead of 23, started CPA straight away, finished that at 24, then had 2 years experience as a CPA to get a $110,000 job in Melbourne. For those who don't know, there aren't many big salaries available in the region where I live. You need to commute to the capital of the state for that income. As for the supermarket, you just need to wait for positions to become available, and you need to show the store you're worthy of the promotion. But all things considered, at 26 years old, the income levels are $85,000 and $110,000 respectively. The supermarket manager didn't spend a cent on education. The other spent $60,000. The office worker earns $25,000 more per year. To keep this simple, let's disregard tax, as obviously you wouldn't get $25,000 more in your pocket per year. In 3 years, by the age of 29, the office worker has covered the initial cost of the degree by earning an extra $75,000 in those 3 years over the supermarket manager. Take away the $60,000 spent on education, that's $15,000 in the clear, and we're only 29 at this stage. But one important factor, the supermarket worker was likely working full-time since the age of 19. Let's say they earned $47,000 per year. $23.75 base rate times 38 hours times 52 weeks equals almost $47,000. Now, here in Australia, you don't get adult wage until you're 20, but let's just keep it simple, and let's just say you were getting adult wage at the age of 19. The university student was probably working part-time, let's say 20 hours a week from the ages of 19 to 21. They earn around $25,000 per year based on the wage used before, so that gives them around $25,000 when you consider that times the hours they worked. So in this time, the supermarket worker has earned $141,000 and the student had earned $75,000 at this point. At this stage, the supermarket worker is in the clear by $66,000. Let's spice up this example. Between the ages of 21 to 26, the supermarket worker earns $85,000 per year. Let's just say they get the promotion early. I've seen department managers get their promotions this early on, so it's not far-fetched at all. The student has now graduated, and let's say they earn $50,000 at 21, $55,000 at 22, $60,000 at 23, $62,000 at 24. They get their CPA at this age and get a raise to $72,000 by 25. And at 26, they job hop, which provides a drastic increase in salary, and they move to the big city with the big salaries, $110,000. I know the example is a little all over the shop, but no matter what example I use, it will be different in reality. I can't cover everyone's bases. So, between 21 and 26, the supermarket worker has earned $425,000. The office worker has earned $409,000 in this time. The supermarket worker is now only ahead by a little, but we need to factor in the study debt. Take away $60,000 from the office worker, that's a net of $249,000 throughout this age range. So at the age of 26, it seems like a dumb idea to go and study when you could have just worked for a promotion. But there's two critical factors to consider. One, the likelihood that these jobs pay $85,000 this early without education or trade skills. This $85,000 is close to what a supermarket base level department manager earns here in Australia, but to get this, you need to wait for the opportunities to arise. Other manager type roles pay around $60,000 for smaller stores from what I've seen. You can obviously always work your way up, but this relies on those above you stepping down, which they very rarely ever do. And most importantly, critical factor 2, we're only 26 at this age. Chances are you have a lot of time left. Let's take these same figures. 26, the supermarket worker is at $0. The office worker is at negative $76,000. This is using the $425,000 from the supermarket manager's earnings between 21 and 26, and the office worker's earnings in this same time take away the degree. Between 26 and 31, the supermarket manager earns $425,000. The office worker earns $550,000. Take away the $76,000 from the starting point at 26, we get a net of $474,000 for the CPA, which beats the supermarket manager by $49,000. So now the degree and postgraduate study is starting to pay off. Could the manager get another pay rise and promotion in the meantime? Of course, but so could the CPA. And this example is assuming you go for the easier accounting roles. Like I said before, You can max out your career stat between 21 and 31 by working for the big corporations and then get $200,000 a year. Easy. More than $200,000 in fact. But most people just work for the large corporations for the resume experience and then move on to decent paying and easier roles, like the one I have now. Example, you work 3 to 4 years at the big four, you make, I don't know, 70 to 80,000 bucks as a senior, you switch to a role that pays 90 to 100K, but the work is more chilled out instead of sucking shit for another several years to earn $200,000 plus. Everyone has their own choices, paths, goals, ambitions, etc. And this is only using an approximate accounting example. If you pick medicine or law, this salary is way higher. Much worse work-life balance for the most part. Some lawyers get off easy with a 40-hour-a-week job like many accounting jobs, but obviously you also have big law and big accounting jobs where you work 70+ hour weeks. And all doctors work shit hours, but they have much higher pay. I'll stop the example here because we could branch out into thousands of different scenarios, but the ultimate point is your career investment may not pay off in your 20s as opposed to your peers. But are you living for your 20s or are you living for the rest of your life? And one thing I need to emphasize, all of this doesn't even factor in the quality of life. Now, I've worked at a supermarket for 10+ years now. I've seen and heard it all. Being a department manager is not a fun time. Whenever something goes wrong, it's always your fault. Even when your staff beneath you are the ones who screwed up. Sorry, my previous managers in the past, my bad. It's the same as you go up the hierarchy. You'd go to work stressed every day. You'd be pressured into staying back to fix anything that goes wrong. Or whenever you are short-staffed or whenever there is more work to do than expected, which happens a lot. I know Big Four accountants work a lot of unpaid overtime, so there isn't much difference here, but Big Four provides many exit opportunities unless you work in some tax-specific role at the firm like transfer pricing. What an exit opportunity is skills that allow you to leave your role and go somewhere else. Example, if you're an underwater welder for like an oil rig or something, what's your exit opportunity? What other skills do you have? Can you go and get a manager role at a supermarket? Can you get a senior accounting role at a business with a cruisy work environment? Can you get a job in administration? Can you go work in a bank because you dealt with a lot of banking clients during your time as a Big Four accountant? No, absolutely not. The skills are not transferable. Your skills are relegated to underwater welding. There is no exit opportunity here. This is why I have defense as its own individual stat. If you're an underwater welder, this is your career. You can get pay rises and gain experience doing this with your company and whatnot. Maybe even go to another oil rig company, but that's it. You can only do this. The skill is not super transferable to other jobs. You can argue that accounting skills are only for accounting. Yes, correct. But there are many other soft office skills that could transfer to other office roles if need be. Anyway, I digress. Back to the quality of life. Spending the time to get a white-collar degree so you have a more chilled career and the ability to work from home far outweigh the initial upfront investment of time, which is the years you spend on that degree, the cost of the degree itself, and the lost potential income while studying that degree. My comparison has been basically between just working hard and getting promotions at a standard job versus a white-collar degree path, but blue-collar trades are also an option. These pay pretty decent, but again, you need to factor in the quality of life. I did tradie shit with my dad when I was younger. Long story short, sometimes he would take us to a job site and have us help out. And he has built our house from scratch, and sometimes I'd help. I hated it. I much prefer a cushy office job that isn't backbreaking labor. Plus, even if your white-collar role pays less than a blue-collar role, you can just make up for this by learning investing stuff on the side or listening to business ideas while you're working. If you work from home or your job allows headphones, you can do this easily. Chances are you will often have monotonous tasks at work where you can split your attention on work and listening to info like I do, so take advantage of this. If you somehow have a job that makes you work in the office 5 days a week, like my job, and it's super strict with this stuff, like no headphones, time to look for another job. If the blue-collar worker earns more, you'll find a lot of the extra money is due to working overtime. A good leveraged return on your time, no doubt, but during this time, the white-collar worker is in the gym. The blue-collar worker is bumping up the money stat, while the white-collar worker is bumping up the aesthetic stat. And again, quality of life. I'd hate a manual labor job for the rest of my life. Meanwhile, most people can't stand an office. but I can't stand manual labor. I will eventually make a video on office jobs versus trades, and which is better, but for now, we shall finish off this point on investing in a career versus not investing in a career. Let's just say there are many, many factors that play into this, such as which job you get a promotion in, what you decide to study, where you live, what country you're in, your quality of life, what you prefer to do, etc. But let's use the example I used of an $85,000 without a degree job versus $110,000 with a degree. 85K take 110K divided by 85K times 100 equals 29.44%. Let's round that up to 30% for simplicity's sake. Disregarding the time in your 20s earning less while you were studying, and disregarding the time in your late 30s and beyond earning exponentially more per year, we shall say this investment on your career provides a 30% return per year. Alright, now typical of me to get carried away when talking about a career, but let's shift to business. I won't talk much about hypotheticals as I'll go on for way too long, and you have so many more factors that play into this. Example, Jeff Bezos used a $250,000 loan from his parents to help get Amazon up and running. Not sure what the stock price and thus the market cap is at the time you're watching this, but it's around $858 billion at the time of writing this script, basically near the end of 2022. Now, let's keep this simple. Let's use this figure as the value of the business. Obviously, this isn't the amount of money that Jeff Bezos has now in his bank account, and it's not like he'd sell this business tomorrow and pocket all of this money. But let's disregard all of that and go with saying he turned $250,000 into $858 billion. This is a return of $343 million%. I thought this was wrong at first, but nope, apparently that's right. No chance will your investment into a career return anywhere close to this. Now, the career example was 30% per annum, and this percentage obviously isn't a percentage return per annum, but even if we split this 343 million% into 50 years, like it didn't even take Amazon 50 years, but let's just use 50 years as an example anyway. If we divide 343 million by 50, that's an annual return of $6.8 million per annum. What the fuck? Now ask yourself, what business idea do you have that could possibly provide these kind of returns? Now ask yourself, what business idea do you have that could possibly provide these kinds of returns? I very much doubt you have an idea this golden, and if you do, please send me an email or a DM on Twitter/Instagram, and I will be happy to invest in your business. So, this is one of the golden examples when it comes to a business, but that's absolutely not the norm. Let's go on the extreme end. Let's talk about business failure. The statistics vary, but a good percentage of businesses fail. I am just going to use 50% to be generous. It's probably higher than this, to be honest, especially in this upcoming economic climate. If you don't spend any time upgrading your investor stat in the way I consider an investment stat, you may want to check out these videos here. The first thing I want to mention is the first circled stat. 50% that do actually fail actually make a profit. But the profit isn't enough to get by on. If your business makes a profit of $2,000 per year, hooray! You have a business that makes profit. But wait, $2,000 a year? That's not enough to live off. And that's also probably not worth the effort either. The second section I closed in red, 2 million businesses started 4 years ago and 36% no longer exist. In that time, you could have gotten a degree that will guarantee you a return of 30% per year, for example. These stats may change based on your country, but I assure you it will be higher in the upcoming years in terms of business failure rate. Now, let's debunk an argument while we're on this topic of career versus business. You can say, well, you can get a degree and still be unemployed, or underemployed, or not working in the field your degree is in. Yes, you will, for a certain amount of time, and as I've mentioned in the past, if you pick a degree that is useful, you will get a return on your investment into your degree. Unfortunately, for the woke, your gender studies degree is useless in the job market. It's good for calling people incels and bigots on the internet, but it won't get you anywhere near a worthwhile return on your investment. Go woke, go broke. Let's check this stat. I'm honestly shocked it's so high, but apparently nursing unemployment has been around 3% between 2014 to 2017. I imagine it's a lot lower now in 2023, but I can't find any up-to-date info on this. Now, admittedly, I didn't look super hard, but I don't need stats for this. Anyone in the labor market / university market knows nurses are in super high demand. I honestly thought it would be 0%, but I'm guessing that there is something in the data that would maybe include nurses who aren't fussed about working at the moment. Maybe they're looking for a job but are content raising their child at home, or they're currently moving somewhere and are in the process of finding a new job, finding a new hospital. Maybe they got banned from working since they did some super shady and dangerous shit and they're included as unemployed even though they were banned. Not sure, but either way, that paper for Australia shows nursing unemployment was at 3%, which means you have a 97% chance of your investment in your career paying off. A much better chance than the 50% of your business succeeding. Now this one here is from the US. This study showed unemployment doesn't actually exceed 1%, so now you have a 99% plus chance of your investment paying off. So again, 99% is way better than 50%. So back to that last circled stat, financial management was a key success metric. Maybe if they had hired a good accountant, or had invested into their investor stat / financial literacy stat, more businesses would succeed. So let's say you're part of the 50% that have a successful business. How much can you expect to get in return? I have no idea. I cannot find any stats on this because it depends on so many factors. What is your business? Is it a gym? If so, how much is your rent? How many members do you have? What are your utility costs? Is your business selling goods for an increased price? How much of those goods can you sell? Do you have a pile of inventory that you need to sell at a discount to clear up space? Is your business a restaurant? What is your foot traffic? What is your rent? Etc. And of course, how can I talk about this whole business thing after all the YouTubers I've reacted to and spoken about in prior videos and with my audience? How can I not talk about a YouTube channel as a business? If you're Mr. Beast, your percentage return probably isn't that high, since he chucks all his money back into his business. If you make $10 million on a video and you put $10 million back into your channel, your return is 0%. If your next video makes 11 million bucks, then your return is 10% per video. But if your business idea is a self-improvement YouTube channel, like you see many others trying and other self-improvement YouTubers advocating, what are your expenses? I don't know how much you are spending on your videos. And how much are you generating? Do you have sponsors? What are they paying you? Chances are your AdSense is falling as predicted in my 2023 predictions video, but I also have no idea how much you could be earning. Let's check out Social Blade. In part 1, Hamza said he made around $500,000 a year approximately, with a lot of that going into expenses to build his business. But how many other Hamza channels are there? None. No one else is like him. These numbers at the time of recording show he could earn anywhere between $75k to $1.2 million per year. Wide range much? I could never budget with income that inconsistent. I doubt he'll earn $1.2 million this year due to falling AdSense and advertiser spending, unless his channel balloons even further, which it probably will, but again, I think some other guys have a delusion that they will able to have this type of growth. Again, I don't mean to be negative, but if that was the case, if anyone could grow a channel this big, why haven't I had 100 plus self-improvement YouTube channels with 1 million plus subs recommended to me by my algorithm? Simple, because there aren't any. We'll use a smaller one for this example. 43k subs is pretty darn good. Takes a lot of effort to get to this point, but the max earnings for this channel are around $62,000, much less than what I earned in 2022, and my income was stable and guaranteed. There's no certainty this channel will make 62k. Obviously the channel can grow, but AdSense can, and also will, decrease further. I know I'm coming across as negative, but I must reiterate, everything I've said needs to be taken into account when guys decide they want to become a YouTuber as their job. As the money isn't as good as what you think, you need to be one of the big dogs to get a livable wage. And even then, it isn't guaranteed. And now let's check out this shitty channel. C+, this is an F if you're Asian like me, so this channel fails. Apparently this guy can make a whopping $76 a year. You should tell him to quit his jobs and stop studying. So I'll stop being dumb for a second. I have spent this amount on my brand. I don't actually have it written in the script, but it'll be on screen since at the time of recording this audio, I don't actually know how much it'll be. And by the time this video is out, it's probably even more because I would have paid my thumbnail guy for the thumbnail for this video, which I don't know what that'll be at the time of this recording. So anyway, I've spent what I've spent on this channel. And yeah, so I've spent that amount, and it includes things such as a microphone, 3 different microphones in fact. The first one was a $28 one from Amazon that didn't work properly. The second was decent, but it kept echoing. And the third, which is this current one, is a tried and true brand that I had seen other YouTubers use, but even then the voice sounds very echoey. Not sure what to do about that. I've even got one of those little sock things. If someone can enlighten me, I'd really appreciate it. But it has to be a microphone you can plug into your laptop. I can't have one that needs a PowerPoint or anything, or a big setup, because I can only really record in my car. I can't record in my house, which I've mentioned in some previous videos before, but basically I can only really record this stuff in my car. So any really nice microphones that you can just plug into your laptop, suggestions are welcome. But all that money I spent, and I can maybe earn $76 a year from this, even though my channel isn't monetized, and I have no idea where this $76 figure is coming from. What a bad investment. That's it. I'm asking the microphone company and my thumbnail guy for a refund. I'm not actually going to do that. All of this is an investment into a passion project I fully believe in, and like most businesses, it requires an initial upfront investment. Funny though, my channel is actually doing pretty good with my country rank in education. Thanks all. Apparently I'm doing pretty well in terms of Aussie channels and education. There's a reason for this. Here in Australia, housing is fucked. In order to get into housing, you need loans from the banks. In order to get loans from the banks, you need stable sources of income. Otherwise, they won't loan to you. A business like YouTube is not stable. The income fluctuates dramatically. Unless you want to rent forever, or live at home with your folks until you're in your 40s, you need to get your own place. And this is achieved via your standard career. Maybe if you live elsewhere, you're able to take more risks and be less stable, since real estate isn't absurdly expensive in your region, for example. But where I live close by to the 5th most unaffordable location in the world. I don't live in Melbourne, but because Melbourne is so unaffordable, Melburnians are moving to my region, which is driving up the prices of real estate here. So perhaps my Aussie bias is showing whenever I advocate for a career and not a business, but given all I've said, if we ignore real estate, I still have a point. Additionally, my education rank is high because most education channels are like boring lectures on a mundane topic. Hopefully that's not how I come across, but I like to think I put a bit of a spin on education, and hopefully you guys like it too. So let's recap. A business investment is more likely than not to fail, and even if it is profitable, you are likely to earn less than you would with a standard career. Let's just say you spend $10,000 a year on video editors, thumbnail creators, and whatnot. I'll use the YouTuber example since I imagine that that's what most of you watching will be familiar with. Given the overlap in my audience and other channels like this, if your channel starts to grow and let's say you make $30K a year, which is around the middle projected earnings of the example of Denmo we used before, that's a 200% return. But how likely is this? It's already unlikely you'll make money, let alone earn this much. Even $20,000 a year isn't enough to live on if you have a rent/a mortgage. My investment into a brand has lost me money so far, but it's money I can afford to part with. I have full faith it'll pay off in due time. I am not detracting much from the other areas in my life, and worst case scenario, I was able to help out others and make some friends. Okay, next, real estate. We all know real estate in Australia is fucked. We have tax legislation that encourages investments in real estate. Our politicians have multiple investment properties, so they're less inclined to change anything about our fundamental system. All of this is to say, it's a good investment anywhere, but especially here in the land down under. We have 5 of the top 20 most unaffordable locations in the entire world in terms of real estate to income levels, and our population is only around 26 million. Yeah, it's a massive country, but most of it is uninhabitable and a desert, basically just a large commodity playground. So the locations are densely populated around the coasts, primarily the east coast. I live in Victoria, bottom east of Australia. So anyway, real estate returns. I'll be using Aussie data, so the returns are probably higher unless you live in certain locations in the United States, Canada, London in the UK, or Hong Kong in China. But check out these returns over the past 10 years. An average of 91%. So split this by 10 years, a 9.1% return per annum on real estate. The price of housing is declining around the globe at the moment at the time of writing, but based on my location, I don't see housing falling much. Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics has good data on housing prices around Australia. It depends on the location. They're dropping in many areas, but I doubt my area will follow suit. I'm not giving away my location. My OG viewers will know I keep my identity hidden to protect my career, but essentially I live in a small town. This town is about 30 minutes from the next major population centre. This major population centre is about 1 to 1.5 hours from Melbourne. So where my real estate is, it's in this major population centre. Everyone from Melbourne is moving here because Melbourne is so unaffordable. So it's pushing prices and demand in this major population centre up. This and some other domestic factors I've seen firsthand lead me to believe we won't see a large drop, if at all, in housing prices here. So I'll keep this short since real estate is mostly, obviously, about location. But let's say real estate provides a 10% return per year. Not a bad investment, and it's pretty guaranteed too. What makes real estate different, however, is it's a hard asset you can live in. You can't live in your career, you can't live in your business. Plus, the returns on real estate seem larger due to the magnitude of money. I spent about $60,000 on my education, not including my personal trainer qualifications. My land cost me $325,000 when I bought it. It's valued around $425,000 now. My $60,000 career investment will provide me around a 30% return, or a $25,000 boost per year. My $325,000 real estate investment so far has provided me roughly a 31% return, $100,000 per year. Obviously, this isn't going to continue each year, unlike my career investment, but making $100,000 from real estate per year sounds way more than an entire $25,000 increase in salary per year, despite the fact the percentage returns are about the same. We will also ignore the debt you go into for real estate, the fact you can live in it, the possible rental income you can receive. Let's just keep it simple as possible and look at it only from an equity appreciation point of view. We'll stick with a 10% figure we got on average earlier in this section. So far, career provides 30%, business provides 200%, real estate provides us 10%. Let's see what stocks give us. This will be my shortest section, since most people are aware that the stock market has an average of a 10% return, maybe it's 7% adjusted for average inflation, but there is much less variability to this in comparison to the other 3 investments. Going off script a little bit, my next video is actually going to talk about the stock market, or maybe not the next one, but the one after that. One of my upcoming videos is going to be talking about the stock market and percentage returns in a different light to what you normally hear about. So at the time of recording, yesterday, Heresy Financial, one of my A-tier finance channels, uploaded a video delving into, I guess, the statistics of the returns of the stock market. And turns out, you'd be surprised it's even less than what you'd think, but I'll save that information for that video. But just so you know, I have a bit more to say on the stock market, and it's something you will want to see because it'll provide some perspective into the whole investment space, and it'll also help tie into something I'm going to say later in the video, but we'll get there when we get there. But anyway, back to the script. In 2022, the stock market returned negative 20%. I'm using the S&P 500, which is usually what people mean when they refer to the stock market. If you factor in inflation, it's something like negative 27% or something. Either way, bad year. If you invested into the energy sector, you made a 58% return, but you wouldn't have known to do this if you didn't spend time keeping up with the market. The reason I advocate for learning this stuff yourself is because you can have greater returns than this during down markets, or you can even beat the market if you're good enough. I'll address the notion of 99% of people lose money day trading. Yes, indeed they do. But are you a part of 99% of people? If you're watching this channel, I very much doubt that you're average. You're clearly willing to take the time out of your day to learn new things, which is why you're watching this. So you have it in you to learn this stuff. I've made it easy for you with this video here. It goes over all the bad and good finance channels I watch/listen to. There's timestamps, so you can just skip to A and S tier if you want to sabotage my watch time. Made an hour-and-a-half video, but it'll get absolutely destroyed in the algorithm, but whatever. But anyway, if you invest in the general market yourself, you can expect a 10% return. We will disregard inflation because that'll remain higher than normal for the next few years, and I didn't factor in inflation in the other 3 investments we spoke about. If you spend the time to learn this stuff, a 20% return is possible per year. 20% returns on individual trades are very common for me, but so are trades that lose 50%. Like, I am right more often than I'm wrong. In due time, my ratio will skew more towards higher returns and less wrong trades. But in the meantime, I need that time in the market and experience. Regardless, a 20% return per year is possible if you understand the market and keep up to date with current events either via Twitter or the YouTube channels I recommended in the video I mentioned about half a minute ago. If you want to know good Twitter sources, just follow who I'm following. These guys will retweet tweets from other good sources of info, and from there, you can just have a giant network of investing information. So, unless you pay for courses to learn this stuff, or unless you paid for a finance degree at uni, then you can learn this stuff for free. So the cost is $0. And because I listen to this stuff while doing other tasks, example, I listen to it while I'm at work, I listen when I'm driving, I listen when I'm cooking/eating dinner, etc., it isn't taking up any of my other spare time. So the opportunity cost is basically 0. Example, if I had to dedicate time solely to learning investing stuff, during that time I could be doing a shift at my second job, so I miss out on the $110 or whatever I'd get from working 4 hours at night after my office job in exchange to up the investor stat. But unless I would otherwise use that time to listen to a lecture or an audio recording of my videos to find any errors in the audio I need to cut out, then this investing time doesn't eat up any extra time for me. Now, obviously, you could lose money from bad trades if you swing trade, but if you spend enough time learning and enough time in the market, you will eventually be profitable and make good returns year on year. It's the same thing as a business. So far, my business has lost me money. Do you see me throwing in the towel and telling everyone not to bother with the business? Well, depending on how you've interpreted my message, maybe you'll say yes. But as I've always said, do a business on the side. Have something stable first and foremost. Yes, a standard job is stable, but a career offers you pay rises. If you have a standard job, whatever raises you will get will be nowhere near enough to get by in the future and outpace inflation. I can switch to an accounting job that pays me 10k more than my current one, no problem. I can't switch to another supermarket job that pays me an extra 10k per year because all the supermarkets pay minimum wage. So, have your stable career so you don't need to fret about income security or stability, and work on your business on the side. So back to the point. Some people lose money on a business, but everyone still thinks a business is a good idea. So why do people think differently about the stock market? My guess is the stock market is quite difficult to learn, but it's like learning a language. You slowly start listening to people around you speak the language. You listen to people talk about the stock market, which is what those recommended videos in my finance YouTuber ranking list is for. Eventually, you pick up certain terms, you learn what they mean, you eventually learn more and more, and then you start to understand the entire conversation/video. So, investing, let's say 20% return per year, because I will assume you will take a more active approach to investing, even though all it requires is just listening for a while and then clicking a few buttons on an app. I use eToro here in Australia because they allow leverage trading and shorting. If you're anywhere other than Australia, you have more available apps to use such as Robinhood and Moomoo, Public, Webull, etc. Going off script slightly, but we have Moomoo here in Australia too. I only realised that not long ago when ZipTrader promoted it, and he's like, oh, Australian viewers can get up to $50 cash back. I was like, oh, Aussie viewers can get stuff. But Moomoo doesn't allow fractional shares or options, which is annoying. eToro allows fractional shares. Now, at the time of recording, I'm looking at using interactive brokers because they allow options. I'm having issues with getting bank wire because all banks I use are a bit of a hassle to get a bank wire going. So once I figured that out, and once I figured out how much I'm willing to part with to chuck into interactive brokers, that's when I'll start using them. And I also need to get cleared to use options as well. I don't know what the requirements are to get options. I'll ask around on a Facebook group or on Reddit, but either way, going forward, I'm probably going to use interactive brokers a bit more once I get more of a gist on options trading, but back to the script. So that goes over all 4 investment choices. Technically, there's a 5th, your aesthetics. I've spent so much money on appearance over the years, but there's no real monetary return on that unless you get like fitness sponsorships, supplement sponsors, a Gymshark sponsorship, etc. But I won't talk about that now because this video series is long enough. And at the moment, I don't have enough of an audience or an aesthetic enough physique to make money from it. Yet. Hopefully my new gym plan for the next couple of years will change that. Again, going off script, there are quite a few people I've seen who they've got good physiques, make no mistake, but they wouldn't be what I'd considered sponsor worthy, but they still have sponsors. It's because they have a large audience. So I've seen some YouTubers with like 150k subs who have a Gymshark sponsorship. I always thought Gymshark was harder to get into than 150, like make no mistake, right? 150k subs on YouTube, that's so much, that's heaps, right? Obviously, I'm not one to talk shit about the amount of subs you have, but for such a prestigious brand that sponsors like David Lade, Steve Cook, Chris Bumstead, and obviously a whole lot of others, one would assume it's a little bit harder to get a sponsorship from them, but it seems it's obviously very difficult still, but it seems that the primary thing you need to have is like a large following of some sort. So I guess the online brand coupled with a bit of aesthetics could get a sponsorship from a massive brand like that, but that'll be a video for another day. Back to the script. So career returns 30%, a business returns 200%, real estate returns 10%, and stocks return 20%. So based off of this, the business looks like the best investment, duh, then a career, then the stock market, then real estate. So why do most people have a career and real estate as opposed to a business and stocks? One word, stability. Or security. 2 words, stability and security. You are a lot more likely to succeed in your career than a business. Your real estate investment is a lot more likely to pay off as opposed to an investment in stocks. Stocks are also cheaper to get into, so you'd think many people would have money in stocks than real estate since it's way more accessible. Yes, it's a boring sounding life, standard rat race, work 9 to 5 to pay off your mortgage, boring, but it's way more stable. You won't become a millionaire quickly with a standard career and real estate. You need decades of career experience and work to stockpile enough money to be close to a millionaire, and you need years and years of equity appreciation in your home to afford other houses. But with a business, you can definitely become a millionaire quickly. For all I know, this channel could have 2 million subs by tomorrow and I get lots of sponsorships and I can sell out and make a quick $1 million. How likely is this? How likely is this scenario? Almost 0%. But what are the chances I get a job offer for a multi-million-dollar accounting salary job tomorrow? Literally 0. Any salary of this magnitude in accounting is reserved for those with decades of experience in the field and in large companies, unlike mine. But there is a chance there is demand for content from my channel that 2 million people around the world would enjoy. Same with stocks. What's the bet your options trade returns 400% in one day? Not super likely, but it's possible. What are the chances your real estate goes up by 400% tomorrow? Literally 0. There's too many factors that need to play into account to get real estate to bump up this much. It's literally impossible. Whereas many factors such as macroeconomic news, Theta, implied volatility, gamma squeezes, margin calls, etc. could work in your favor to drastically spike the value of your options trade. Again, not very likely, but definitely not zero. I've seen it happen before on videos from like Kamikaze Cash and Wall Street Millennial, for example, where they talk about top 5 Wall Street trades, top 5 trades on Wall Street bets on Reddit. Obviously, there's a lot of people who lose a lot of money, but you have a few people who get a little bit lucky. But anyway, so let's look at the likelihood of these investments paying off. We've seen expected returns per annum, but what's the likelihood you get these returns? For real estate, I'd say it's 99.9%. You're 99.9% likely to get returns on your real estate. Let's just use a time horizon of 3 years. If you bought in 2022, maybe your value will go down. If you're really unlucky, your loan will end up greater than the value of your property, but it's very unlikely. There's a 99.9% chance you'll make 10% per annum. For career, depending on what you choose, it's a 95% success rate. Nursing and accounting have higher success rates. Some of the less stable careers are closer to the 95% employment rate, but that assumes the degree is actually useful. There's a 95% chance you'll make 30% per annum. For stock trading, the investment has a 1% chance to pay off, statistically speaking. Keep in mind, that's because most people are reckless and they don't have the time to learn this, and they don't take the time to learn this game like I have, and many others have. But going off stats, there's a 1% chance you'll make 20% per annum. For a business, there's a 50% chance it'll make any profit at all. Let's just say, to get to the 200% return, you need to be cream of the crop. So there's a 0.1% chance you'll receive a return of 200%. So from a secure returns point of view, real estate is a winner, but you need a stable source of income for the bank to give you a loan in the first place. You could buy outright, but unless you want to work for 20 years saving up, you're better off using debt as leverage to buy now. Plus, using a loan for real estate is essentially shorting your local currency, which is a good trade due to the time value of money and inflation and whatnot. Adding to the stable income source, you'll also need a deposit too. So you would get this from a job, but ideally you get it from a career. So although a career is the second most secure, it's technically the most secure, since I doubt you will be able to get real estate without a career in the first place. You can afford a place with a standard job if you have a partner, but be careful, you can always split, and the chances are, if you're male, you will lose this investment to your partner. So ideally, your real estate investment is solely your own. A partner with the same goals can magnify your accomplishments in life, but a bad one can drastically hinder this. Choose wisely. So with all that said, I will start to wind down the video. My strategy is career. I've paid off most of this. At this stage, I should only have to pay off one more subject, but I have spent all I need to get my initial career investment off the ground. Any other education I decide to pursue here is purely optional. Example, although you can get accounting jobs without a CPA is what allows you to get the largest salaries. If I decided to pursue coding after my CPA, the accounting jobs would think that is pretty neat, but it's not necessary for the accounting big bucks. I could pivot to some software engineer / accounting hybrid job, but that's something I may consider down the track, and it's not essential. And from what I've seen on Reddit, it's quite rare, but you know, we'll see how it goes. That's too far down the track to even think about now. Point is, all the money I need to put into my career is basically done. So in terms of where I need to invest my money, there's not a lot left I can get out of a career. Real estate, I'm still currently saving for this. I have enough for my 15% extra deposit to get my total 20% deposit for the land sorted. I need to get a builder, which is something I will look at later down the track. Let's just say a $325,000 payment for land, which is how much my land costs me, and a $300,000 payment for a builder. That's $625,000 all up. This is where most of my income will be going to. I will save most of my income for this. Stocks. I'm not putting any more money into this. At least that's what I said at the time of writing this script. When I mentioned I was going to use interactive brokers before, that was after this script was written. So maybe I'll fork aside 2, 3, maybe $4,000 just to chuck into interactive brokers to start trading options and shit, but it's not going to be a huge amount, and I'll worry about that later down the track. Currently, my focuses are on this brand, my gym, and my studies. Anyway, I'm leaving what I have in the market already and playing around with this. Most of this money was chucked in 2021 before I bought my land, and this was when I could afford to be more reckless with my money since I didn't have anything to save for, and I had 2 secure sources of income at the time, and I still do. So the business slash brand slash online brand, I will continue to pay for custom thumbnails that help get clicks, not to mention it just looks good on the channel, having nice looking thumbnails. Someone just casually scrolling and they find this channel, logo looks great, banner looks great, thumbnails look great, it's just nice and pretty. I may also pay for those really nice microphones, but I need to be careful with when I buy this. If I buy it around the same time the bank needs to look at my bank account for my loan, for my land purchase, then this may not be a good look. Plus, not sure if you need like a proper setup for these, since I record the audio for these videos in my car. I plug the USB from the microphone into my laptop and click the sound recorder app. I'll continue to create content when it doesn't interfere with my other stats. So again, off script, I think the audio's gotten better. I bought one of those little sock things for my microphone, and I've noticed that it sounds quite a bit better than the recordings for some of my other videos. In terms of the quality of the audio, I think it might just be my voice in general. So I guess some of the other YouTubers do like sound equalizers and shit. Maybe that's something I'll look at down the track, but that would kind of eat into some more of my spare time, which could be used for studying and stuff. Once CPA is over, and once the bank's seen my bank account and given me the loan for the land, this might be something I'll look into, because I imagine you'd have to pay for these sort of fancy video editing softwares. I just make these videos on Windows Movie Maker. There's not a whole heap of tools for them, but the ultimate point is, for now, I'm investing money that's gonna make my brand look better and grow it, but I'm not gonna spend anything that's gonna cause too much of a damage to the bank account that the bank won't like, because that'll hinder my real estate investment. So each of these investment categories will receive funding, the scale of which will depend on what I deem appropriate, but real estate will consume majority of my income. My career is meant to be number 2, but since at this stage I only really need about $1,300 more, and my work pays for this anyway, it's actually going to be number 4 for me. But if you're starting out, perhaps you want this as number 1 or number 2. My actual number 2 will be the online brand, despite the fact that it's the lowest priority out of my career, money, aesthetics, investing, and online brand stats. The current investments I'm making into it are worthwhile. I'm obviously still going to pay my thumbnail guy going forward, and potentially video editors depending on where I'm at with my studies, but I'm not putting any more money into the stock market. So automatically that investment isn't receiving any funding for the foreseeable future. And technically I'm being paid for my career investment, so that's even lower than a $0 payment. I'm getting money into my account for this career study. I don't know, you can make the stock market and career tied for third in my overall investing thesis, but it doesn't matter. Depending on where you're at in life and your goals, these priorities will obviously change. When I'm in my late 30s, chances are my number 1 investment will be either the brand or the stock market. And number 2 will be the former of whatever number 1 isn't. But for now, real estate is a priority investment. So if you're like 18, 19, 20 or something, starting out at uni or college, whatever, I'd imagine career would probably be your primary investment. Make sure you've got enough money to pay for that. Obviously, debt in places like the United States are absolutely absurd. But again, make sure you go into debt for a useful career. Don't blow a whole heap of money on starting up some sort of business if you could otherwise use that money for saving up for real estate or your career, for example. So focus on career as your investment, number 1. Then save aside a lot of money for real estate as number 2. Then whatever can't be used for your career and whatever real estate money that you don't need, like you can get away with, if you have $5,000 spare dollars that could be used for like a real estate investment, but it's not necessary, maybe that's when you could chuck some of this into a business. Let's say you put $4,000 into a business before you don't really know what else to do with that $1,000. that's when that last $1,000 could potentially go into the stock market, for example. It's the hierarchy of investments. I hope that makes sense. Think of it as like some sort of funnel where you max out what you can get from this tier, and then whatever's left over trickles down to the next tier, and then whatever isn't fully utilized there trickles down to the next tier, and so on. Now lastly, before we end this video, I need to reiterate that everything you've heard over these 4 videos is an opinion from an accountant who enjoys his career living in Australia. There is likely a bias I have towards career and real estate when compared to other opinions you hear on the topic, but a counter argument can be made that the other guys live in a country that encourages entrepreneurship, so you can thrive more easily in these environments, pursuing the business investment. Maybe your real estate is quite affordable compared to most, so you can get away with holding this off rather than having to jump in before prices balloon even further. Maybe you really just don't like the idea of pursuing a manual labor trade or studying for years to work in an office / in front of a computer for the rest of your days. I'm just providing my opinion, but you can't deny the fact that a career in real estate are the more stable investments, but their ceiling for potential returns are lower. The stock market and a business are unstable and unsecure investments, but their ceiling for potential returns is drastically higher than a career or real estate. Only you can make the choice as to where you invest your time and money. Now finally, I have seen some of my smaller fellow YouTubers recently band together to do something. Not sure what, since it's quite cryptic, which I actually like. I've been cryptic myself in the past with what I'm doing. But from what I gather, they've left their job / dropped out of study to pursue something business related. Actually, so that's what my script said when I was writing it. Turns out these guys have gotten a house together at Maldives. I don't know, some like small island off the coast of Africa, past Madagascar, and they've created like a self-improvement house, and they're all like improving together, learning how to fight, going to the gym, making content, good shit like that. So that's what they're doing. But back to the script. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I am rooting for them. Their decision seems to counter what I've mentioned over the last 4 videos though. So who is right? We shall see in due time. The statistics aren't in their favor. The statistics show majority will fail, but we aren't average men, are we? I'm sure they can defy the odds, but for me, my goal is to build a brand / business on the side, since my circumstances simply don't favor investing my supermarket wage money into a business while completely disregarding a career in real estate, stocks and whatnot. Plus, perhaps, most importantly, I actually enjoy my career, a luxury not many people have. I'm also a little wary of survivorship bias when you see the big names who made it. You never hear about the guys who failed now, do you? Colonel Sanders didn't make his first major success until he was in his 60s. If he didn't succeed with KFC there, we would have never heard of him. He had many failures in his life. If he didn't get successful with KFC, he would have been someone who failed over and over, never got their breakthrough, and had nothing to show for it. And we would have never heard of him. Again, survivorship bias, just keep this in mind. With all that said, only you can decide which path is correct for you. Your circumstances are likely different to mine. Perhaps you can defy the odds, or perhaps you need something a little more stable like I have suggested repeatedly. We all have our own opinions, and this was mine. What is your opinion on the hierarchy and importance of each investment area? I'm curious to see what others think of this. Let me know in the comments below. That is all.